What is the story mind? Dramatica says that every complete story is an analogy to a single mind trying to deal with an inequity. It's very scientific, but what does it really mean? It means that characters, plot, theme, and genre are not just people with value standards doing things in an overall setting. Character, plot, theme, and genre are different families of thought that go on in our own minds, made tangible, made incarnate as characters, as plot points, as thematic arguments. So when we're pondering a problem in our own heads, a story is as if the author took the mechanism of our minds, made it tangible, put it out there for us to look at so we could examine the problem-solving process. And rather than having to be involved in it subjectively and not know which parts are connected to what and how the whole thing's working, the author, who's ostensibly has some life experience or some insight that allows him or her to make a point about a particular aspect of our lives, a good way to go about solving a problem or a bad way. The author says, look at the mechanism, and when it feels like this, either go with your feelings or go against your feelings, because really this is the way it works, and you will only solve this problem if you make a choice that doesn't necessarily feel right by making a leap of faith like the main character does. The main character actually represents the audience position in the story. It represents our own position in our own heads. At any given time, we know where we are in our minds. Sometimes we're mad, sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're thinking about certain kinds of things and sometimes about others. But wherever we are, that's where we are as main character in the story of our own minds. So the story mind simply says, think of your whole story as a complete person. If there are characters trying to do the same job, that wouldn't happen in your own head. You'd only have one kind of thought trying to do a particular job. If characters represent different facets of our mind, then make sure that all the facets are represented. Otherwise, you have an incomplete mind, and the argument isn't made. Dramatica also says this story mind came into being as a byproduct of the process of communication. If you want to make a complete argument that what you're saying is the best way to go or the worst way to go under the circumstances, you can't just show that one way. You have to show all the alternative ways of solving the problem and then explain why each one is either not as good as the one you had or all the others are better than the one that you're saying is the worst. You have to cover them all. And when you cover them all in the story to make sure there are no holes, you've effectively included all the different ways a mind can look at a problem. You've created a story mind, a model of the mind's problem-solving process. Nobody set out to do it, but it does become useful when you're trying to psychoanalyze your story and say, is this story mind complete? Is it a split personality because these different characters wouldn't really reside in the same mind? Or is it holistically working together as if it were a single entity? Stand back a little from your story when you're dealing with a story mind. Don't get right into it and say, now, this character's going to do this, and then this character do that, which will cause that character to do this and this. That's way too close to see if it's working. You can work out the specifics, but is it really working? Stand back and look at the story as a person. Look at the characters as different kinds of thoughts going on in that person. Could they coexist? What impact would they have on one another? Does your story seem like a personality that's worthwhile, interesting? Is your storytelling such that your story's mind is having a conversation with the audience for a couple of hours and holding their attention? Or do you have to send it to finishing school and do a little work with it? All those kinds of useful perspectives come from the story mind concept.